Great. So let's get straight into the topic, building moral intelligence. And we need this because we are seeing a certain crisis in character among the young people. Our researchers tell us that the young people today are not as kind, courteous, nice as when you and I were younger. Okay, things are different. It's a totally different generation of kids we're dealing with. People who are so immersed in technology, people who are manipulated by the environment to be selfish, self centered, and vain. This is the kind of generation of kids we have inside our classroom today. But I always tell the teachers, if you have a student acting like a spoiled kid inside your classroom, wait, don't give up on that person. It's not his or her fault totally. It's the environment that is manipulating him to be selfish, self-centered, and vain. I mean, really totally different kind of mindset. Um, the social media was not there 15 years ago. But the young people today inside our classroom, the 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old kids, they grew up with this kind of environment, immersed in social media that is telling them to let the world know their feelings, their opinions, their thoughts, and sometimes even posting things in the internet, in social media, that you and I never dreamt of telling the whole world. Sometimes we see posts of our students like that in social media that make us cringe. And we think, what is he thinking? Does he really have to let the world know that he is fighting with his mother, that he has something against his dad, that he does not get along well with his brother, sister? But they post that in social media for the whole world to know. And then, of course, the kind of modesty or the low level of modesty many times you see among many young people today. They will post their picture in skimpy attire, and you think, do the parents of this guy, of this girl, know what he or she is posting? So that's the kind of world we're living in right now. The young people are so manipulated by the environment to be selfish, self centered, and vain. Researchers call this a pageantry of vanity. I mean, um, humility is at an all time low, pride, vanity is at an all time high right now. That's why you go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter of these people, and you see their 175 pictures of their face in different poses like that, no? Or TikTok videos, 15 seconders, but like displaying their talent, their skill for dancing, their creativity. But some of them you feel uneasy, and you feel there's just too much exposure. But that is the kind of world the young people are living in. I tell the teachers, if you one day happen to have a kid entering your classroom acting like a spoiled brat, because you and I know what it means. Today, it's politically incorrect to use spoiled brat, but we know what it means. Well, before you make judgments, please realize this kid is growing up in a different generation, and the reason why she comes to school is because she needs to learn the meaning of humility, of decency, of morality. Okay, we are seeing now a decline in morals, in the level of morality of many young people, and this is the only way to explain the rise in teen pregnancies, for example, the rise in pornography. The Philippines continues to be number one in Pornhub for the last 8 years. Number one in terms of hours spent online in that pornographic site. So that is the kind of world the young people are living in. But we go back to the ancient philosophers telling us, Aristotle said, people do not naturally become morally excellent or practically wise. They become so, if at all, only as the result of lifelong personal and community effort. So, my dear fellow educators, my dear fellow teachers, the reason why we are here in a seminar like this is because you and I still believe in values, in character, in high level of morality. We still believe that the young people can grow up to be good. They don't necessarily have to be swayed by the wave of filth and dirt and vulgarity and indecency that the whole world right now is experiencing, is seeing. I mean, as a clear example, when I was younger, billboards could not display indecent pictures, okay, or pictures of women in skimpy bikinis. That's no, no. There would be people who would complain, would stage a rally even. But today we see a different kind of morality. We can say lower level of decency, morality, and etc. So you and I are here because we have made it a commitment as a school or as individuals. We can still raise up these young people today and trusted to our care to be good, not just smart, but especially good men and women of character. You know, a very nice study made by Samuel and Pearl Oliner, and they put their study in a book entitled The Altruistic Personality. They simply interviewed people who saved Jews during the Holocaust, because there were good people who protected the Jews from the slaughter. 6 million were killed, but there were some who survived thanks to good people who helped them. So Samuel and Pearl Oliner interviewed these people and asked them one question: why did you save people? I mean, why did you even risk your own life in protecting the lives of these Jews? And they all have the same answer. They all said, because that was how we were raised, because that was how our parents raised us, that you help the needy, that you come to the rescue of people who need you, because that was how our teachers in our school trained us, that we have to help people when they are in need. That's it. That's the key. They had moral intelligence. They knew the right thing to do and they did it. And this is what we are concerned about now. We want to see these young people, the grade 3 kid inside your classroom who spends a lot of time in playing computer games. We want him to grow up to be morally intelligent, not just expert in math, because the computer will help him develop that. Not just science geniuses, but especially morally upright, choosing to do the good even if no one is looking, even if it is hard, even if no one else is doing it, even if no one else is good, they will be good. So, character, you see, someday it can be a matter of life and death. It's worthwhile, therefore, dedicating our life to building moral intelligence one brick at a time, one virtue at a time among these students entrusted to our care. Okay? Because character is what will enable people to survive, to endure, and to transcend misfortunes. And that's what we're seeing now in this pandemic. It's those who have character who are thriving, surviving, transcending, enduring. Um, every now and then we hear about shooting campus, in campus, no, school shooting. In the US, it's almost as frequent as um, earthquakes that we hear about in the Philippines. I mean, it's so heartrending when you read about this. And many times these are victims of bullying whose only idea of getting back at their tormentors is by killing, is by shooting, is by slaughtering. It's absurd. So in the US, how are they trying to solve the problem? They try to solve the problem by let's put CCTV cameras everywhere. Let's put metal detectors at the entrance of the school. That's how they're addressing the problem. And that is not going to solve the problem. There will continue to be shootings, murders, because it's not the CCTV that will solve it. It is not metal detectors that will train them in character. Well, there are many people all over the world doing something to address the crisis in character. You have projects like this. It's a fantastic project. We are not going to talk about it today, but um, the Virtues Project, for example, and they have a lot of materials on how teachers of whatever subject can inculcate values, can instill virtues among the students, whatever subject they are handling. Or a movement like Character Counts in the US. And they just have uh, six, six pillars of character. And according to their principle, um, push this six and everything else will follow: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, citizenship. It works. It works, and more schools are using their materials to be able to uh, raise young people to become morally upright, to gain moral intelligence in spite of the environment that they live in. Or this best-selling book, for example, of William Bennett. I think he was former secretary in the United States. And he came up with his book of virtues as a way for parents and teachers to instill values, virtues, in among the young people. Well, in my case, I have aligned myself with CEP based in Washington, D.C. I'm an affiliate of CEP. They renamed themselves to character.org. And I encourage you, if you want more materials on how to strengthen character formation in your school, in the community, especially among your coaches, among your teachers, then go to character.org. That's formerly CEP, and I continue to take care or run CEP in the Philippines. And another affiliation I have is with the State University of New York based Center for the Fourth and Fifth Arts. Our principle: every human being, aside from knowing reading, writing, arithmetic, should have respect and responsibility. The fourth and fifth R's: respect and responsibility. That's the Institute of Dr. Thomas Licona, whom I have invited to the Philippines 4 times. And as far as we're concerned, this is how we're going to raise young people to have moral intelligence. Help him grow in respect, help him grow in responsibility. Everything else will follow. Everything, all the other virtues will follow. But for today's session, I'm going to use as our main source Dr. Michelle Borba's Building Moral Intelligence, the 7 essential virtues that teach kids to do the right thing. Okay? We're going to go over the seven. With the 2 hours we have, most likely, what I'll do is I'll go deep in the first three, and then the next four or the remaining four, we will go very quickly. But from how we're going to tackle the first three, you already will have an idea of, okay, that's how we go about it. We look for strategies under each of those 7 virtues. She's a very good friend. I brought her to the Philippines 5 times already, and then last April we had her for an online session related to her latest book entitled Thrivers. Why do some kids thrive during troubled times like the pandemic? And she talks about the virtues very necessary for young people today, especially to develop in order to thrive in spite of uh, the time they're living in, these times that they find themselves in. Okay, this is what she says. Without morals, the young people will not learn how to deal with others correctly and appropriately. That's why we need morals. That's why we need to develop moral intelligence. For a long time, schools measured IQ, right? You remember the IQ quotient, the intelligence quotients of the person. And the higher it is, we consider him a genius beyond 145 or so IQ. And then later on, we started hearing of, wait, it's not enough. You can have a genius of IQ of 175 who will not survive the world because he can get easily get depressed. And then we started hearing about EQ, emotional quotients. And then Howard Gardner started talking about the multiple intelligences. You now have the spatial intelligence, and then we say, okay, but what we are more interested in is to see these young people be good, be morally upright, making good decisions, especially when they get to the real life, when they become professionals, when they get to be working in a field, in a profession. That's where building moral intelligence comes in. Michelle Borba says there are 7 essential virtues that we have to make sure the young people develop so that when they grow up, they will always do the right thing, choose the good between when they are confronted with choice of good and evil, they will know they have to make the right choices. They have to choose the good. Even if when no one is looking, which is what character is all about, even if it is hard, which is what fortitude, toughness is all about, and even if suddenly they find themselves in a world where 80% choose to do what is wrong, choose to do what is evil, choose to do what is bad. And we can be seeing something like that in the world today. The decline in morals, the decline in decency, in purity, in matters of chastity. There are people nowadays who will tell you there is nothing wrong with pornography. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not harming anyone. I am just looking at these images that make women turn into object of desire, that treat women below their dignity. Wait, that's wrong. Even if you're not hurting, harming anyone, morally speaking, it's unacceptable. You cannot treat people like objects, object of desire, object of passion, object of pleasure. Women are not like that. They are human beings. And then for Catholic schools, Christian schools, they are made in the image and likeness of God. And they cannot be treated like that, mere object of desire. So we need the essential virtues. I know that's the first thing you want to know. Let's get to know them right away. Here are the 3 foundational ones. If a person is to grow up upright, always doing the right thing, always choosing what is good, then that person should have empathy, conscience, and self control. More or less, the next 4 will follow from empathy, conscience, and self control. And these are the next 4: respect, kindness, tolerance, fairness. You see, according to Michelle Borba, if a person is to grow up to be moral, morally upright, always choosing to do the right thing, we've got to make sure the young people, especially those in the basic education, kinder all the way to high school, we have to work systematically in making sure they develop these virtues. Then, when they go to college, when they go to professional, when they become professionals, they will always do the right thing. And it's clear, empathy. especially in dealing with people, because for the rest of their life, that's what they will be doing, dealing with other human beings. No man is an island. No one can live alone. I mean, without the use or without help of another human being. Conscience, even when no one is looking, that's the role of conscience. He will do the right thing, even when no one is watching. Some of our politicians fall into this trap. It's okay to cheat for as long as you don't get caught. That kind of wrong value, I mean, it's not even a value, it's a travesty of value. It's okay to cheat for as long as you don't get caught. That is immoral. Conscience will now tell them, no, even if no one is looking, even when no one is watching, even if you will not get caught, there are certain things that are right and there are certain things that are wrong. And then self-control. And that works both ways. Self-control in dealing with other people, self-control in oneself. So it's like putting together empathy and conscience. And then the four others will follow. So then, let's go to the essential virtues. They are number one, empathy. Let's build empathy. Those of you who attended my session last May on developing grit, empathy, and resilience, much of what I'm going to share with you are found also in that section on empathy. That's why we will skip a number of parts on empathy. But let me tell you this, according to Michelle Borba and other experts, empathy is the one that is in crisis in a special way because of the digital lifestyles of the young of the generation today. The generation today, their empathy is 48% lower than ever in the history of mankind recorded, according to researchers. I mean, I don't know how they arrived at the 48%, but that's from the experts. And we just have to take their word for the time, the effort that they spent in studying this. This is what empathy is, identifying with and feeling other people's concerns. And the reason why it is in crisis is because you can have a kid today who can actually be growing up only with his gadget. Um, you know this. A kid today can be spending the whole day with a cell phone, with a tablet, with a computer screen, with a television screen. Not unlike when you and I were growing up. When I was growing up, I was always outside the house, climbing santol and sampalok and duhat trees with my friends, going to the river, playing tumbang preso, taguan, agawan base. That's how I spent my childhood. We were always outside with other kids. We dealt with each other, not the kids today. A kid today can be spending 3 hours with his mobile legend. And then another 1 hour making the two videos for TikTok. And then another 2 hours scrolling in Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And so you can have a kid growing up today without actually going out there playing with other kids. And this pandemic is making it even worse for them. A kid today, um, you know, Homo sapiens. That's the nature of man, right? Homo sapiens, the thinking man. We are human beings because we're able to think. But you know, another part of the nature of man is Homo ludens. Homo ludens, the playing man. Part of the nature of the human being is to be playing. Can you imagine that? In fact, school, shole, is supposed to come from the word play, game. Because that was what school is supposed to be, a place where kids play with other kids in order to learn what it means to deal with other human beings. And that is deprived of them by this pandemic. And that is disappearing because of the digital technocentric lifestyle many young people today are immersed in. No wonder empathy, according to researchers, is one of the crises, biggest crisis we see among the generation of kids today. They grow up without actually learning how to deal with other human beings anymore. You can have a kid coming to your classroom, and then she acts like a bully. She doesn't know how to share with other kids. She doesn't know how to deal with other kids. Because the whole time of her um, preschool time at home was spent watching TV, watching Netflix, watching YouTube videos for kids, playing computer games. It's all the digital lifestyle that is bringing about a big crisis. So then let's go straight into what can we do? What should we do? How can we develop empathy? Step number one, build an emotional vocabulary. The more words they know of emotions, the more they can detect the meanings of the emotions. That's why the first step is build an emotional vocabulary. Make them learn a lot of words, different words that depict different feelings. That will make them more sensitive to the feeling. I'll show you an example. Here is page one of 2 pages of lists of words that describe feelings or emotions. Look at them: afraid, agitated, alarmed. Do they know what it means when a person is cross, upset, angry? Do they know what it means when the person starts being fidgety, fearful, frustrated, furious? Now let's go to the middle part of this first page. Do they know what embarrassed means? Encouraged, enraged, enthused, happy, hassled, hateful, helpless, hesitant? The bottom part of the page. Do they know how to determine if a person is being cautious, being cheerful, being comfortable, being concerned, being confident, or hateful, helpless, hesitant, hopeful, horrible, hostile, hurt, hysterical? How many of these words do the kids know? And therefore, knowing the words can detect what they mean, because every emotion comes with a need. Now, let's go to page two. That's only page one. And here's page two, the upper part. Look at these words that depict emotions. Do they know what it means when a person is beginning to be impatient, indifferent, inferior, insecure? Insecure. That person is insecure. That's why she needs accompaniment. She needs to be understood. She needs a friend. So, um, if they know what the word means, then they will understand what kind of relationship, what kind of dealing they will provide that person. Going to the middle of the second page, you see more vocabulary words. And then the lower part of page two, do they know what to do if the person they're dealing with is already mad, is mean, is mischievous, is miserable, is moody? How do they get along with a person who is sad, safe, scared, secure, sensitive, shaky? So, all these, just enriching their vocabulary and the meanings of these emotion words, is first step already to developing empathy among our students. Step two, enhance that sensitivity to the feelings of others. You want them to have empathy? They have to be sensitive. You have to help them develop a certain sensitivity. It's true, right? If a person does not have empathy, and here's a classmate who is already about to cry because he is being teased. Ah, if the classmates are sensitive enough, they will stop. They will stop because they wouldn't want to hurt another person. But if they don't have empathy, they couldn't care less. And it's a challenge for them to make that kid cry and they feel victorious. They feel that they are superior. I mean, that's an absence of empathy. Here are six simple ways to nurture kids' sensitivity given by Dr. Michelle Borba. Number one, praise sensitive, kind actions. Notice them. And even on an online setup, you can do this. Praise sensitive, kind actions. Joey, I heard that you helped Joanna, who was absent last meeting, with the assignment. Very good. That's what it means to be kind. Um, and I also heard that you did it without anyone telling you. You did it because you were concerned. Good job. Keep it up. That's what it means to be sensitive to the needs of others. You see, you are reinforcing something that is otherwise, um, the others may not realize that it's a big deal. It is a big deal. Let's make a big deal out of those sensitive, kind actions that we notice from our students. Show the effect of sensitivity. You see, Joanna is not afraid to come to class today because she got the help that she needed. So, Joey, good job. And I hope all of you will have that kind of sensitivity in coming to the aid of your classmates when they are in need, okay? Because someday you might be the one who will need that help. Draw attention to non-verbal feeling cues, okay? Let them know that many times emotions are not just shown in words when the person screams or yells. No, sometimes the feeling cues are non-verbal, like the clenching of the fist. If the person is already clenched with a clenched fist like that, the guy is already upset. Come on, stop teasing. You have to be sensitive to those non-verbal feeling cues. Or the face, the frown on the face is already like that. Mom is already very serious. Guys, no more talking. Keep quiet. The, um, the teacher is already upset. And yet, she did not say a single word. It's the nonverbal feeling cues. That's developing sensitivity to other people. Here's number four, ask often, how does he feel? How do you think the character in the novel feels? You see, whatever subject you're teaching, we can bring in empathy lesson. uh, Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times, more than 1,000 times before discovering the light bulb. How do you think he felt on the 700th failure? And then you bring out the sensitivity to that feeling of frustration and near giving up. But he went on. He did not give up. Use the formula feels plus needs. Make the young people realize that for every feeling there's an accompanying need. He is happy. What is the need? He wants to share it with others. That's why we join the in the celebration. We are happy when somebody is happy. We um, share the excitement of another person. The person is sad. There's a need there, the need to be understood, the need to be comforted, the need to be heard and listened to. Sometimes that's the only thing people need. Someone who will listen to them without any judgment, without any condemnation, but somebody just listening to them. The formula feels plus needs. And then you yourself, dear teachers, many times it's good to share with your students. Class, I'm not very happy with the results of the quiz last meeting last week. I need you to work harder. You're expressing that feeling that you have of frustration, sadness, and the need there is, come on, I expect more from you. I expect better from you. If you have any question, you ask me, but let's not leave it to just like that. We've got to work double time. We've got to work harder. So sharing our feelings to our students can help them develop that sensitivity. 5 fun ways to read nonverbal emotion. Play feeling charades. You know the list I showed you. You know the game of charades where one person gives clues without saying a word. He cannot say a single word, but just by action, the others should be able to determine what emotion is he displaying. Is that frustration? Is that anger? Is that resentment? They are all different, and feeling charades can help them develop that uh, reading, being able to read nonverbal emotions. Make comic mood characters, cutting out from comics different moods that different cutouts that show different moods. This is a cutout of happy. This is a cutout of anger. This is a cutout of, so that makes them be more sensitive to reading nonverbal emotions. Reading with feelings, especially kids love this exercise. Read Jack and the Beanstalk angrily. Great. And then people are laughing as the person reading angrily reads it, putting in that out of place emotion. Now let's read it happily. And again, people get a kick out of that kind of exercise. Watch silent TV. You show a video, turn off the sound, turn off the audio, and then just make them, what do you think is the feeling of that character? Now, what is the feeling that that character is displaying? That makes them sensitive to reading nonverbal emotions. And then finally, hold a feeling lookout. You stand by the window. This is usually inside the classroom setup. You stand by the window and then you try to guess, what do you think is that person walking along the pedestrian lane now feeling? Is he happy? Is he angry? Is he frustrated? What do you think is his feeling? So all these are good ways to develop sensitivity to the feelings of other people. Let's go to third step. Develop empathy for another person's point of view. This is important because perspective taking is one of the clear signs of empathy. When a person is able to put himself in the shoes of another person, when a person is able to um, see things from the perspective of another person, that is empathy. And so anything that will develop their empathy for another person's point of view is great way of developing empathy in them. Three simple ways to increase their ability to take different perspective. Here's the first one: switch roles to feel the other side. When you make the students do a um, drama, role playing, and then you tell them suddenly, okay, now switch roles. You can also do this in debate exercises that we do in our class. No, we make them debate, and then suddenly you surprise them. Let's spend 5 minutes, switch roles, defend the stand of the other person. That will make them see things in a different perspective. Walk in my shoes. And I know some teachers would do this as a strategy. Okay, class, for our reporting next week, don't just talk about Jose Rizal. Come to class as Jose Rizal, like as if you are Jose Rizal and you will deliver your presentation. You will let us understand how it was, how Philippines was in the Spanish times during the time that he was fighting for the freedom of the Filipinos. Walk in my shoes, putting themselves in the shoes of other people. Imagine how the person feels. Again, going back to uh, developing sensitivity, making them imagine how must the person be feeling, and therefore that will help them develop empathy. Okay, well, this is classroom discipline that builds empathy. Call attention to insensitive, uncaring behavior. Ask the student, the offender, how would you feel if this happened to you? How would you feel if it was done to you? Actually, that's what we call the golden rule question. What would you feel if others said it to you, if others did it to you? R, recognize the consequences of the behavior. And E, express and explain your disapproval of the insensitive action. So that's how we should discipline, putting in empathy. Not just you're detained, you're suspended, you will be given this punishment because of that. Write 100 times, I will not do it again. Those will not develop any virtue in them It's just the lowest level of moral development. I don't want to get into trouble. That's the only reason in the end why they will want to do good, to avoid trouble. But it's not going to raise them up to be moral. Let's go to number two, conscience. Knowing the right and decent way to act and acting that way. It's not enough to know, they have to do it, they have to perform it. Okay, so you have the two kinds of values or virtues here. Conscience is in crisis today in the world because of these six factors. Rise of youth violence. I mean, we read about this, no? We hear about this in news reports of young people getting involved in violent activities. There's increase in peer cruelty, which is what prompted our legislators to pass the Anti-Bully Act of I think that was 2009, no? Or 2014. I don't remember now. There was that Anti-Bully Act, and it's because of that that there was one year I went around the Philippines going to different schools because suddenly schools were required to have bully prevention program. I mean, if you don't have something like that in your school, that means you're not following what was stipulated by law some years back, requiring all schools to have bully prevention programs. And so I had to go around the country helping schools put in place bully prevention programs. Because of this, what we see, increase in peer cruelty, rise in youth stealing, escalation of youth cheating. I know many students today who will tell you cut and pasting is not a form of cheating. They will say it's resourcefulness. They go to Wikipedia, they go to the internet and type in the topic you ask them to write an essay about. And really, in a matter of 0.78 seconds, 0.78 seconds, you have their 2,000 articles on democracy, on patriotism, whatever topic it is that you ask them. And they just have to choose those very, random and seemingly out of this world article published in Bangkok or published in Hungary, and then they cut and paste. They change the active voice to passive. They change a few words here and there, and that's it. They pass it on as their work. That's cheating. But they don't think it's cheating. They think it's resourcefulness. They think it's available for them. And so, and that is a kind of world the young people are living in right now. The blurring of um, cheating, resourcefulness, art of studentry. They will even tell you that's just part of being a student now. Increase in sexual promiscuity, rise in substance abuse. All these contribute to the crisis in conscience. And then let's put in what we have already been talking about. Actually, technology addiction, gadget addiction, computer games addiction. They all contribute to the crisis in empathy, conscience, self control, all the seven virtues. Believe it or not. Or I know you believe it, especially for those of you who have kids uh, who, as soon as they wake up, they look for the tablet, they look for the gadget. Their happiness is being able to connect, and the stronger the Wi-Fi connection, the happier they are. You cut the connection, there's typhoon, there's no Wi-Fi, they get depressed. I mean, they get very upset, very angry, very frustrated. They curse Smart and Globe. They curse the this is contributing to the crisis in all fronts of the seven essential virtues. So, when can we say a person has conscience? When a person is able to say these things, I know how to act right, you should put that back. It is not yours. That's conscience. I only watch TV shows that my parents permit. They will do the right thing even when the parents are not around. Let's do something else. This is not right. The person has conscience. You can count on me. I'm sorry, it was my fault, admitting that he made the mistake. You should tell the truth. That's a person with conscience. I do my own work because copying is cheating. That's conscience. Or when people do this, they act the way they know is right. They do not steal, they don't cheat, they don't lie because they know it's wrong. Not because somebody's watching, not because they will be punished, but simply because they know it's wrong. They obey their parents even when the parents are not watching. They're not swayed by others and do what they know is right. They can be trusted to do what they are told, and they admit when they are wrong. And they obey the rules because it's the right thing to do. As I'm reading this, you're thinking of your child, you're thinking of your student, and you are saying, oh my gosh, my kids have no conscience. Some of my students don't have conscience. They don't do this. They do the complete opposite precisely. They steal, they cheat, they lie. They obey their parents only when the parents are looking. They are swayed by others, by peer pressure, and they do what they know is wrong. This is a crisis that we're seeing now. Let's go. 3 steps to building strong conscience. Number one, create the context for moral growth. Make them realize, for example, that um, moral growth is a very important part of being a human being. Step two, teach virtues to strengthen the conscience and guide behavior. Step three, use moral discipline to help your student learn right from wrong. Okay, I know some of you are trying to copy. We will take it one step at a time, okay? To build strong conscience. Number one, create the context for moral growth. Here are 6 practices that promote development of stronger conscience because we have to make the young people know, little boy, little girl, you should develop your conscience. You shouldn't grow up with a distorted conscience, with a lax conscience. Yung tipong they're already doing the wrong thing and yet they still choose to do it because their conscience has become lax. Thinking, anyway, everyone is doing it. Anyway, all my classmates do it. They cheat, they cut and paste, they plagiarize. So, they develop lax conscience. So, how then do we develop and make sure that they develop their conscience in a strong way? Number one, and we have been repeating this in all the seminars we've been giving on character formation. The only effective way to teach character is through the powerful example of our life. Be a strong moral example. Number two, develop a close, mutually respectful relationship. Number three, share your moral beliefs. James Tenson was um, yeah, James Tenson was the one who said it. Practice what you preach, but don't forget to preach what you practice. Practice what you preach, but please don't forget to preach what you practice. You know why? Because the opposite of what you practice and what you want the young people to do, the opposite, those are the things that are being glorified in the music, in MTVs, in Netflix movies that they watch, in videos, in social media. For example, we value chastity, purity, modesty. And then they go to Spotify, and of the 20 top global chart songs, of the 20 songs in the top global charts, half of them are about sex or the words that contain lyrics that contain words that are profane, um, sacrilegious even, or vulgar. There is a certain glorification of the vulgar. That's why if we don't share our moral beliefs, we lose by default. The only thing they hear a lot of is what MTV presents to them, what videos in YouTube present to them. Share your moral beliefs. 4. Expect and demand moral behaviors. I never fail to mention this when I tell the students, okay, class, next week is our next week is our exam. Please study hard. Okay, don't even think about cheating. That has to come out of our mouth very often. Class, you do it in face-to-face class or online class. We have to make sure these things come out of our mouth very often. Class, I expect you to study hard. Okay, do not even think about cheating there. Expecting and demanding moral behavior at all times. Or, okay, class, the project is due next week. I know you will not even think about cheating, letting your housemaid do the work for you, the diorama being made by your dad, who is an architect. I expect um, more from you. I expect upright and moral behavior from you. Okay? You're not even going to think about cheating. So those things have to come out of our mouth very often. Use moral reasoning and questioning. That's similar to the discipline by using moral discipline. Um, Instead of simply giving sanctions left and right, punishments for this or for that, consequence for this or that, we talk to the person who, let's say, is found to be guilty of committing a mistake, a wrong deed, and then we ask him, "Well, how do you think the person you did it to feels? How would you feel if the others did it to you? What do you think is wrong? Why you need to be given a sanction for that thing?" So moral reasoning and questioning, making them realize that you're not just there punishing left and right. The consequences that we give to students, not many times, but all the time, is for a certain reason, and that is because we are interested in developing their moral intelligence, their moral reasoning. And then number 6, finally, explain your own moral behavior, why you do what you do, why you uh, disagree with cheating, why you are very, very passionately against corruption and stealing and lying and um, abusing other people, like that. No? So when we explain our own moral behavior, then we are strengthening, we are promoting the development of stronger conscience. Good questions to ask ourselves, some things to think about, especially among you who are parents. And I know majority, I think, of you have kids, are parents. Your boss, your supervisor, your principal calls, and you tell your child, sabihin mo wala ako dito ha. Yan. Pag tumawag ang boss ha, sabihin mo umalis ako. Wala ako dito. That is the kind of example we are showing this kid, and it's being picked up. Your child misses school because she oversleeps, and you write a note excusing her by claiming that she was ill. Dear sir, my daughter is absent today because she is sick. No, she just overslept. Then, if we do this, what kind of moral lessons are we transmitting? Or you drive faster than the speed limit with your child as a passenger. You do the majority of your child's work on a school project, but had him sign his name. And those of you who, okay, you buy a ticket for a child under 12, even though your child is older. So these are things that good for us to think about. The kids are learning conscience, developing conscience from our example, or not developing the right conscience from our example. Step 2, let's teach virtues to strengthen the conscience and guide behavior. We already gave the okay. So for teaching inside the classroom, identify the virtues you want most to develop in your students as we prepare for the new school year, because this is part of that back to school, back to excellence series. Let's spend time as a faculty, as a school, as a unit level, for example, sitting down, determining what are the most important virtues that we want our students in grade 5, in grade 6, in the whole intermediate school, in the whole junior high school. What are the virtues that we want most to develop in our students? And then let's choose uh, best if we have 10, because we're going to be with our students for 10 months. And then let's accentuate, let's highlight one of these virtues a month. Or maybe you will only come up with four. Okay, then let's divide the whole school year into quarters. And each quarter, each period, we will highlight that virtue, where we will even ask the students to write a motto related to the virtue, commentary on the virtue, battle cry that we will write, that we will make the students write on every paper that they submit. Number three, describe the value and meaning of the virtue to your students. And I know schools that do this. They have the virtue of the month talk at the start of every month. Somebody, they invite an alumnus, a graduate, one of the teachers, one of the parents, one of the a good speaker who will talk about that virtue in a general assembly with all the students listening to the person talking about what is a virtue. And then here are three ideas to accomplish this. Virtue talks, read alouds. There are many articles, good articles that you can use that will talk about the virtue, highlight the virtue, or that at the end of the story, for example, the message is the importance of that virtue. Articles. Number four, teach what the virtue looks and sounds like. And you don't have to be the only one teaching it. You can actually make the students write it. Write a class for um, for our advisory today. I will give you 5 minutes. Write down three suggestions that you have on how does your classmates, you and your classmates, can live the virtue of the month, and then let them share or let them collate the list and let them read what they came up with. That's how we teach what the virtue looks like and sounds like. What do you think this virtue looks like and sounds like at home and in school or wherever you find yourselves in? Number five, reinforce the virtue in daily life. We make comments about it. We praise students who display the practice of that virtue. Or throughout that month, we integrate it into our lessons. History teachers will mention um, how some heroes, some historical characters lived that virtue, displayed that virtue. And then number six, find opportunities for your students to practice the virtue. These strategies help will help you teach the virtues to the students that will promote strong conscience. Okay, presenting the virtues that enhance moral intelligence according to Dr. Michelle Borba. And we look at them and we see, wow, there are so many of them. If a young person practices and develops these virtues early on in his life, he will grow up to be morally upright and with a strong moral intelligence. Second page and the third. Okay. Um, you don't have to copy, as I said. You can download this whole presentation. I will show you, especially for those of you who are joining us for the first time today. I will let you know later where you can download the whole PowerPoint presentation. Okay? Okay. So, um, one of the greatest, one of the greatest gifts that you can instill in any child is a deep seated belief that says, I am a good and moral person. This is the greatest legacy. Among parents of you here in this audience, realize the greatest legacy you can leave behind your children is this: the strong conviction that I have to be a good and moral person. I have to grow up good. If you are able to plant that in the mind of your child, in the mind of your students, you're a great parent, you are a great teacher. Okay, three fun ways to cultivate virtues in the classroom. I will have to go quickly now because it's time for our little break. No? Virtue fiesta, virtue scrapbook, virtue self-portrait. You make them do these things and they're fun, and yet they are able to develop virtues among the students. Finally, step number three is use moral discipline to help your student learn right from wrong. We've already given examples of this: moral disciplining. The 4 R's of moral discipline. When you discover a student having committed an offense, respond calmly and then assess the child's intention. Because sometimes it was not intentional. The hurt that she did to another classmate, it was an accident. Okay, respond calmly and assess the child's intention. Review why the behavior is wrong. Reflect, make the student reflect on the effect of the behavior, how it hurt another person, how it made another person suffer or cry, or make him or her reflect on the effect of that behavior. And then right the wrong by encouraging the child to make a reparation. Do you need to apologize? Then let's do it. Do you need to return what you stole? Then let's do it. Righting the wrong by encouraging the child to make a reparation. Those are the 4 R's of moral discipline according to Michelle Borba. Okay, well, we're up for the third. As I said, I at the beginning, I was sure we will never be able to finish the 250, or I think 260 plus slides, but you will be able to get the whole set, and the last few virtues, the ideas there are self-explanatory. But we're ready to proceed with the third to the seventh essential virtues. Okay, let's go to the third. I mentioned earlier that the first three are the core from which the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh essential virtues will follow. Okay, so we started with empathy, and then we went to conscience. Empathy, they need it especially in dealing with other people. And then conscience, with or without other people, they have to do good and be good and choose what is right. Now, the third is self control, which is in a deep crisis because of the kind of wealth we see in the world today that the young people are surrounded with today. Self control is regulating your thoughts and actions so that you stop any pressures from within or without and act the way you know and feel is right. Okay. Sometimes we also include as part of self control temperance. And as you see, temperance is in a crisis today among the young people, especially with regard to the use of technology. Okay. Um, you can have a kid who is so addicted, so addicted to the gadget, to technology, to computer games, to social media, that any opportunity he can have, she would rather spend time with the gadget, with technology, with social media. So you have now problems of online classes, yeah, but at the same time that the Zoom room is open, or the Microsoft Team is open, or the Google Classroom is open, nakabukas din, no? Yung NBA.com, yung TikTok, yung Netflix, yung they can actually be doing other things. And the parents, if they don't supervise, then you have a problem there. We have a problem. Four, factors why the crisis of poor self-control is a big problem now, why it is here. Overworked, stressed out parents and teachers as well, especially now when um, everything is work from home, online classes. What we used to do inside the classroom in disciplining the students, the parents now are the ones who have to do that. They will have to be the ones now disciplining, supervising, checking on their son, their daughter, really listening, attending classes, being attentive to the activities, and doing the what they need to do, following their schedule. Now they're beginning to realize how difficult it is to be a teacher. Okay? More and more parents have come to the conclusion, wow, I cannot be a teacher. How heroic pala the teachers of my son are or my daughter. That's what they are beginning to see now. Some also, unfortunately, have been through early abuse and trauma precisely because you have overworked, overstressed parents at home, and you kind of situations like that. They spank, they hurt, they harm the kids. And then here's another crisis. I mean, here's another factor for the crisis. I mean, many years ago, we didn't hear much about ADD, ADHD, ODD. I mean, these things didn't exist. Now we have more and more students who have to take downers to calm them down. Otherwise, they are hyper like that. No, I mean, we have now more of these students who are relying on chemical restraints instead of self control, self constraints. And then what they watch in the movies, uh, not just on sex and violence, but even display, glorification of out of control behavior in entertainment. We see all these happening. We have, again, three steps to build self control. Let's go to number one: model it. The only effective way to teach character is through the example of our life. Model self control and make it a priority for them. The way we react to situations, does it show self control? The way we express our frustration, for example. I mean, it can happen that we get upset, frustrated about the performance of the students in quizzes, in exams. But how do we show it? Um, do we explode in anger? That's an absence of self control. We cannot teach self control that way. Let's think about the following. How do I act in front of my students, online or face to face, when the day is hard and my patience is lacking? How do I control my own anger and stress? I said it yesterday. I've said it before in previous seminars. Everyone is stressed out by the situation. Students, teachers, and parents as well. That's why we have to factor all these things in. And we have to be the model of self-control in the way we show to the students how stressed out we are, but we have to show them self-control and restraint. In the middle of an argument, am I able to stop and say, let's stay calm? And this at home with our children, with the people at home, as well as inside the classroom, online or face to face? Or am I doing anything in excess? Drinking, eating, smoking, swearing, spending, working, playing, that might send a wrong signal. Everything in moderation. That's what virtus means. The middle ground. Virtus is that. Virtue is the middle ground. Here are four practices that nurture self control. Number one, teach it. Teach the meaning and value of self control. We have to be talking to our students about this. For example, class, please work hard to be able to get 8 hours of sleep every day. You need it, okay? Everybody needs that. Otherwise, you only sleep 6 hours because you want to watch the K drama, 3 episodes before sleeping, uh, and then you lack sleep. Then the next day, you are grouchy, grumpy, heavy, sluggish, lazy, and worse, feeling sick. Of course, because you didn't get enough sleep. So please have the self control to discipline yourself in getting 8 hours of sleep. We have to be always talking about this. They may not be hearing it at home. Maybe because the parents are, okay, the father is in Dubai, the mother is in Hong Kong or in the US. And we have situations like that. And if they don't hear it from us, they will not hear it from anyone. The value of self control in being able to get enough sleep, in being able to get enough rest, in being able to have good diet, for example. Talk to them about the marshmallow experiment. You remember this experiment where kids were put in a room, each was given two marshmallows. And then the adult tells them, okay, I'm going to leave you behind. When I come back, and if you have not eaten the marshmallows, you will get two more. Okay? And as soon as the adult leaves the room, the kids don't realize they are being observed in a one-way mirror. As soon as the adult leaves the room, some of them ate the marshmallows. Walang self-control, walang temperance, walang delayed gratification. Some of them will not touch the marshmallows. They have self control. Now, that's not the experiment yet. The experiment is they followed the lives of these kids 15 years later, and they discovered those who had self control, those who had delayed gratification, were high achievers, above average performers, and successful. Those without self control, they ate the marshmallows, were failures. Some of them were below average performers and even kick out or so there is a correlation between self-control and success, self-control and performance, because they repeated the experiment with different kinds of kids with different economic backgrounds, with different family upbringing, but the results always showed the same. Self-control later on showed success and above average performance. So the kids have to hear things like this so that they realize, I better develop my self control now. Commit ourselves to it because studies show those who commit themselves to it usually succeed. Number three, create a class self control motto. And this is doable even for an online setup. Make them draft a self control motto. It can be one sentence, it can be a paragraph that they will memorize, but expressing their um, promise to live by self control as a virtue. Number four, set a rule to talk only when in control, and that when we are not in control, we will not talk. We will um, hold our tongue. Yan. Which by itself is self-control. Nowadays, we also need to teach them about think before you click, right? I mean, don't just post anything because once you post something, that leaves a digital footprint and that can be forever. Even if you delete it later, somebody could have screenshot it already and that is your downfall that you said something like that, that you said you posted something, you clicked something that you will regret later on out of self because you did not have self control. Number two, encourage them to be their own motivator, that they will do the right thing even when no one is looking, even when no one is going to punish them. Encourage them to be their own motivator. Five simple ways to help kids reinforce themselves for a job well done. Switch your pronouns from I to you. That will make them realize. No? um, you did a good job, you did what is right, instead of simply saying, I'm happy with the work that you submitted. That's not going to foster job well done. That's not going to foster his self motivation. He will now start doing things only to please you as a teacher, to please their parents, to please somebody, but not, I have to do my work well, even when no one is looking, even when the reward does not come. Encourage internal praise. Class, tell yourselves, good job, because the results of the exams were very good. Keep it up. And convince yourself that you see what happens when you do your best, when you do your work well. Congratulate yourself for that. Give yourselves a pat in the back. Those internal praise will make them realize later on, I have to do the right thing just because it's the right thing. Not because I'm trying to please somebody, but because that's what I am. As I mentioned earlier, the greatest legacy you can leave behind your children or your students is the strong conviction, I have to be a good person. And then I have to do the right thing all the time. So ask them to acknowledge themselves. Keep an accomplishment journal. I mean, it's not bad. Just as we have gratitude journal or kindness journal, keep a tab on the kind acts that you do or that you observe to develop kindness, sensitivity to kindness. This one is keep an accomplishment journal. Keep a journal where you make a list of the things you're able to accomplish. And then at the end of the week, they look at it and they realize, wow, I've been able to do many things this week. Finish this project, contact that friend for to be able to help him. Give him all these are accomplishments that make them develop self motivation. Design a certificate even as an exercise. Give yourselves a certificate. Use canva.com. Use PowerPoint slide certificate maker in order to um, design a certificate that you will give yourself. Better yet, even print it out and post it there. The fastest to be able to finish a project. Give it as a recognition to yourself. Strategies for effective praise, because correct praises will develop self motivation in them, that they will not do things only in order to please somebody, but because it's the right thing to do. Praise the action, not the child. Make the praise as specific as possible. John, thank you for helping Joanna in her assignment. Even if no one told you, that's a very specific. The praise should be deserved and should be genuine, not flattery, not put on, not just for the sake of being able to praise, but something really genuine. Number three, to develop self control, teach them to control their urges and think before acting. And this, whether it is an online setup or face to face classes. Okay? Um, Especially so because this is the root of many bullying that happens inside the classroom or in schools when they are not able to control their urges. They fail in their academics because they were not able to control their urge to play computer games the whole day of Saturday, the whole day of Saturday and Sunday, the whole weekend. They were not able to control. So, teach them to control their urges and think before acting. Now, one of the things that we have to help the young people, especially in, is controlling their anger. Here are four anger control strategies. One, develop a feeling vocabulary, which is close to step one that we took up earlier in order to develop empathy. No, identify anger warning signs. When know yourself, know thyself, according to the Greek philosophers, as a first step to being able to um, grow as a human being. Okay, understand yourself. What do you start doing when you are angry? Are your fists clenched, or you feel your muscles here beside your mouth beginning to shake, or you feel your veins here? I mean, what are your warning signs that you are beginning to be angry? Get to know those warning signs so that you know you have to put in self control in that anger. And then use self talk. Man, don't get angry. Man, control yourself. I mean, that exercise of self talk, it works. I mean, psychologists, psychiatrists will give that, for example, as a way of encouraging oneself. You can do this. You can do this, man. Um, Other people have done it. You too can do it. You're talking to yourself to encourage yourself in being able to do what you should be doing at that moment. And then breathing exercise. I mean, even professional actors in Broadway would do this, doing exercise in breathing to be able to control their nervousness, to control their shaking of the hands, for example, when they are very scared, afraid, apprehensive. Now, this one is in being able to control their anger, breathing exercise. Breathe deeply and then inhale and then control it before you exhale as a way of control. And they all help in being able to develop that self-control in anger. 8 ways. Now, the urge nowadays among the young people, especially, is in the use of money. So, one of the things we need to develop in them regarding self control is the self control in spending. Here are eight ways, for example, Dr. Borba suggests to help kids control their spending urges. Number one, well, for parents, this is especially for you. Give weekly or monthly allowance so that he or she can learn to budget money at an early age. Sorry. Number two, buy him or her a piggy bank to save coins and make a rule that it must be filled before the money is spent. That- Early on, they have to develop this mindset of I have to save up. I shouldn't just be spending. Just because I have money doesn't mean I can do whatever I want with it. It's good to save up, to think of the future, to think of being able to buy something later on that I am really saving up on. Make him draw or write down intended purchase and post it for a few days before he actually buys it. Actually, these suggestions can also be good for us because sometimes we are the ones who need to practice self control in our spending habits. Require him or her to spend his own money on entertainment and non essential items. Number five, help him open up a savings account so that he can monitor his money and spending. Number six, require that a portion of his allowance go to a charity of his choice, whether it is to give to the church, to give to an orphanage, to give to. It's a good mindset to develop in them, not just developing self control in the end, but also that idea of being able to help others. Require a set portion of his allowance to be saved. And number eight, say no to frivolous, rash buying, and don't give in. One of the things I always tell teachers, parents, when I'm talking about the digital lifestyle is technology is here to stay. Okay, I'm don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-computer, anti-Wi-Fi, anti-technology, anti-social media. Many of you would not be here today in our session if not for the Facebook ads that we sent out, the emailing that we sent out, the even the Zoom that we are able to use now. We will not be able to. I'm not anti-technology. Technology is here to stay. But what we need to do is to make sure that this kid growing up today is always in control of technology and not the other way around. Because that's what we're seeing now It's technology that is controlling the young people just because there is a new iPhone. He has to have the latest one. Of course not. And then he is not at peace. He is not at ease until he is able to upgrade to the latest iPhone 12, for example. I mean, that's technology has already started controlling him, not the other way around. So, technology is here to stay. We might as well make sure this young kid grows up in control of technology to the end. Okay, let's go to number 4, respect. Well, I told you earlier, I represent Center for the Fourth and Fifth R's Asia, respect and responsibility. You see, just with these two virtues, all the others can come in. But here, Borba puts it as an offshoot of when a person has self control, he will be able to deal with others correctly with respect. When a person um, has empathy, he will know how to deal with authority with respect. And when a person has conscience, he will know how to deal with other people rightfully with respect, showing you value others by treating them in a courteous and considerate way. And this is in a crisis. We know young people today are not as courteous and even as considerate as others. Why do you think MRT, LRT has to continuously play? Bawal ang malakas na yung MP3 player, 'di ba? Pagtugtog ng malakas. Why? Because you take the MRT, LRT line, Aurora Boulevard from FEU going to UP, and you have students most of the time on both ways, and you would be disturbed by loud playing of MP3 players. They have to make that as an announcement because you can have people like that who are inconsiderate of the fact that, wait, there are other people around. So, crisis in this virtue because of the impact of treating kids disrespectfully, because of the decline of civility. I mean, what we see in social media, in Twitter, in YouTube, no, civility is in a decline. You can have people bashing people, even people of authority. The posts that people sometimes put in social media to attack one politician or another. I mean, there's no respect there. The price of fear and suspicion, the decrease of prominent role models. I mean, we see politicians who do not respect others, and then other people do not respect them, especially when election time comes. The dirt throwing, this is what the young people witness or see, and where are the prominent role models that they need to see in the matter of respect? The increase in obscene language and crudeness, rudeness, and raunchiness flaunted by media. All these contribute to the decline in respect. So then, 3 steps. Convey the meaning of respect by modeling and teaching it. That's step number 1. They have to first understand what is the meaning of respect, and then they have to see it modeled, um, performed by people of authority in the first place. Here are 7 practices that nurture respect and love. Number 1, treat your student as the most important person in the world. Even if some of them do not seem to deserve that love and respect, or even if some of them challenge your patience and your authority every so often, but you're the adult, they're the young ones, they're the kids. And that's why our role is very important here. That's why they say patience is one of the most difficult virtues for a teacher today. Give love with no strings attached. I mean, if they see this from the teachers, from the parents, then they will realize, oh, I have to respect my teachers. They may not show it now, but they will learn it and they will mature later on. And sooner or later, they will come to realize how they learned from you respect, love, and even patience, self control, conscience, and professionalism, and kindness. And that's why, well, that's what we've always been saying. There's no other way. There's no other better way to teach character than through the powerful example of our life. Listen attentively and respectfully. 4. Communicate respect with your whole body, not just with your words. I mean, we talked earlier on about the non-verbal cues. We might as well teach, even with our whole body, to the young people what it means to respect, to listen, to pay attention, the, the way we give them our time. Build positive self concepts. Tell them often why you love and cherish them. I mean, these things have to come out of our mouth. Even if you are a math teacher, science teacher, calculus teacher, teacher of the most difficult subject as far as the students are concerned, these things have to come out of our mouth. Class, I prepared for this lesson. I need you to pay attention, okay? I sacrifice a lot. I spend time beyond the office hours just to be able to give you this lesson because I know this is one of the most difficult lessons in this subject because I care enough for you. I mean, without even saying love, which sometimes for some people can be very cheesy, okay, but to make the students hear from us that we put in our time and sacrifice in helping them be able to understand the lesson, in being able to help them pass the subject because you love them and cherish them, and then enjoy being together that when we enter our Zoom room, our Google Classroom, the students have to see that it it entailed a lot of sacrifice on my part, but I am here with you. I'm happy to be able to see you again after a long time of asynchronous classes. I'm just so excited to be with you again. I mean, all these things we communicate in the way we hold our classes, in the way we welcome them to our classroom, online or face to face. 3 ways to teach kids the meaning of respect. Define it. Define for the young people what it means, respect. Ask the golden rule question. How would you feel if others did this to you? How would you feel if others did not do it to you? You were absent last meeting and no one helped you. No one told you about what you missed. How would you feel if the others also do that to you? They don't tell you what you missed. So please try to help others as you would also want to be helped. Okay? Ask the golden rule question very often. And then instill respectful rules. Class, when you meet a teacher, don't fail to greet good morning, good afternoon. But sir, we just saw him in the, even if you just saw him a while ago in the classroom, you meet him in the corridor, that is part of respect, that is part of courtesy. You greet the teacher. Okay? When you see a person of authority, don't forget to greet good morning, good afternoon, good day, etc. as a rule. Enhance respect for authority and squelch rudeness from the very beginning. As we prepare for the new school year, this has to be very clear. We do not, I mean, there are certain things that are like no compromises for us. One of them is this respect for authority and that we do not accept rudeness. That's step number 2. How to get rid of disrespectful behavior. Okay, step 1, Call out the rude behavior on the spot. You hear a student teasing another classmate. You hear a student uttering a profanity, a bad word, a foul language. Call out. Because if you don't call out, you are permitting it, you are effectively promoting it. That's from Hal Urban. What you permit, you promote. So when you see rude behavior, call it out on the spot without humiliating necessarily. That's why those strategies I taught about posters, the posters being posted on the one side of the wall of the classroom that displays a poster that shows what kind of classroom we want, and another side what kind of classroom we don't want. We don't want rudeness, we don't want profanity. And when you hear profanity, it's enough to point to the poster and then point to the mouth, meaning to say, watch your language. Didn't we say we don't want that inside our classroom? Or we just call out the name without saying anything. And John would know already that because we value very much language, we value, we don't accept rude behavior. And John would know that you called out his name because he just did something rude. Refuse to engage when treated disrespectfully. Don't go down, quote unquote, don't go down to their level, okay? Because you're the adult. We are the adults. We are the mature people. And we will just regret resorting perhaps to using profanity, using foul language. We think that, well, because he was disrespectful, so he did not deserve my respect anymore, and I should also say a bad word to him. No, that's not what a mature person would do. Refuse to engage when a student treats you disrespectfully. And then, if rudeness continues, set a consequence. Better yet, if these things are made very clear on day one, the first days of school, the title of Harry Wong's book, The First Days of School. Step four, teach new behaviors to replace inappropriate ones. Okay, so if a student wants to complain, what can he do? He can call your attention and then maturely, I mean, with respect, express what he is complaining about without having to offend or use offensive language. Replace those inappropriate behaviors with new ones. And then always encourage respectful behavior. Finally, number three is emphasize good manners and courtesy. They do count. Okay, I mean, we have to have that reputation that when teachers see our students, that guy is very courteous because he belongs to the class of Mr. So and so, who always teaches courtesy. No wonder that guy, that student is like that. He belongs to that class advisor who is very, very firm about courtesy and manners. We have to gain that kind of reputation. Okay, five, six, and seven virtues now. Mentioned earlier, really, we will not be able to finish all of them. But for example, kindness. Well, we had that one whole session on creating a kind and caring classroom last May. I hope we will have the chance to have a repeat of that because that is one of the most important things we need to do in our schools, in our classes, classrooms, to make it a kind and caring place. Demonstrating concern about the welfare and feelings of others, that is kindness. Three steps to build kindness: teach the meaning and value of kindness, establish zero tolerance for unkindness, and encourage kindness and point out its positive effect. Okay? Yeah, because we're down to the last 5 minutes of our sessions. So let's just four ways to help kids understand kindness. consciously model it. You notice all the steps will always include strategies. When we talk about strategies, it will always include model it. Make sure the young people see it in you, because that is the only effective way to teach character, to teach self control, to teach conscience, to teach empathy, and then to teach kindness as well. Model it. Expect and demand kindness at all times, and teach the meaning of kindness to the students. Make sure we are able to incorporate it, instill it, integrate it into all our lessons with our students, and then show them what kindness looks like and sounds like. Number two, establish zero tolerance for unkindness. That's the second step. Zero tolerance. You have to make it very clear to the students that if there are non-negotiables for you, one of these is this: that you do not tolerate unkindness, teasing, put down, hurting another person, another classmate. Those things are no-nos for you, and there's just no, they're non-negotiables as far as you are concerned. Because if we want our kids to be kind and do what is right, it is imperative that they recognize that unkind words and deeds are hurtful. And step number three, encourage kindness and point out its positive effect. Okay, that's step number three in developing kindness among our students. Three ideas for helping kids practice doing kind deeds. Create a kind heart centerpiece, like greeting other people. That is a centerpiece of kind heart. Or being concerned, or asking a classmate, how are you today? These are like expected of everyone, and that it is a part of our daily routine. That becomes a kind heart centerpiece. The way you greet the, even when you start an online class, okay, class, good morning. I'll allow you to unmute yourselves to express greetings to your classmates. Let's give it 15 seconds. You can greet the others. That's a kind heart centerpiece. Assign secret kindness pals. You are assigned someone that you will do secretly kind deeds to, whether it is to send a kind note, to send a kind message, to express, is there anything I can help you with today in whatever subject, in whatever area, in whatever. Make a giving tree. This is very nice, in the School of Character in the Philippines, the very first one, Morning Star Montessori School. When I visited their school, every classroom would that would have that kindness tree, where they will do a kind act at home, whether it is to help a sibling, to help in the house chores, to do a good deed, and then they would write it on a piece of paper, which their parent would sign. And then when they come to the school the next day, they would hang it on that kindness tree. One look, and you will see if the class has been doing a lot of kindness acts, a lot of acts of kindness. That's similar to the make a giving tree. Okay, we're down to the second to the last. Tolerance. This is one of the very important virtues today, given the kind of world we live in right now, no? Where there is a lot of emphasis on rights of people, and sometimes those rights seem to infringe on your own, because they clash with what you believe in, because they clash with your own beliefs. Okay, but we have to tolerate. I mean, there is such a thing as being tolerant of other people's set of beliefs or set of ideas. respecting the dignity and rights of all persons, even those whose beliefs and behaviors different from our own. That is tolerance. Well, I'll just give you the three steps given by Michelle Borba because we will have to be ending. First, model it, nurture it. We cannot be intolerant of other people simply because they have other beliefs. And then instill an appreciation for diversity. I mean, we cannot all be the same um, person with the same character, with the same personalities, the same likes and dislikes. How boring that world will be. Sure, there will be unity, uniformity, but not necessarily unity. No. So, diversity is okay. Diversity is good. That some people prefer this to that. Some people want this kind of color over that. No problem. Some people prefer this kind of music and not that kind. Some people enjoy that kind of movies and not this one. Diversity. Instill it and appreciate it. And then let's overcome stereotypes, never tolerating prejudice. The world will be a better place, in fact, if people are more tolerant. And then finally, well, I will skip to the seventh virtue, the last. Here is virtue number seven. Okay. It is fairness, the seventh of the seven essential virtues. Fairness, which is described as choosing to be open minded and to act in a just and fair way. When we are fair to other people, when um, we are just, we do not try to put one over the others. We are not trying to be always on the lookout for how can we be more at an advantage over the others. So, especially in our classes, young people are very sensitive to this. That's why when you hear kids playing among themselves, you hear usually this expression, you're unfair. It's unfair. They're very sensitive to fairness. So then, how can we build fairness among our students? Step one, model it. Treat your students fairly. Step two, help your students learn. Okay, here are five adult behaviors that boost fairness in kids. Being an example, expect and demand fairness at all times. Share your beliefs about fairness. Listen fairly and openly. And number five, set fair and realistic expectations. One of the harshest words I can hear from students is, Ma'am is unfair. Sir is unfair. He gave us this exam that he did not teach. He's unfair. This exam is that is many times what I hear from students. They are very sensitive to fairness. So step number two is help your students learn to behave fairly. And step number three, teach your students ways to stand up against unfairness and injustice. So it's not just a matter of rejecting it, but that they have to be ready to stand up against unfairness. Because in the end, that is how they are going to fix the world. When they are out there, and then they will be ready to make the world a better place by addressing injustice, unfairness. And it's important that they are ready to, well, stick their necks out, to stick their neck out in defense of what is fair, what is just. And that is how they're going to grow up. Always with that mindset of we have to reject unfairness. We have to be always um, in the side of what is just and what is fair.